Howdy, y'all. It's Curious Raven with some more spooky stories for you. Hope everyone had a great weekend. Number one, I was at a loss with what to do with my life after getting out of the Marines. I took quite a bit of time off being a responsible adult in an attempt to decompress from 6 years of intense structure. Shortly thereafter, I realized I couldn't function properly without that structure. Just like that, Facebook targeted me with a life advertisement, like it read my thoughts. My small town city police department is looking for a full-time patrol officer. It makes sense. It's the closest I will ever get to the fulfillment of serving one's country, serving my community instead. Being a cop would give me the structure and order I needed. I could even help people on a more personal level, more than I have ever felt I did as a Marine. It just made sense. So that's what I did. Interviews, background checks, drug tests in the academy, and then I was in. Sort of. I may have been a sergeant of Marines with a few medals to display in an oak shadow box, but now I'm just a rookie. As such, I have to ride with the field training officer. I may have graduated the academy, but that's only the basics. Boot camp, so to speak. Now I'm partnered with a veteran cop of 15 plus years in the force. Officer, I'll call him D, for privacy, was easily respected, firm but fair, by the book, and seemed to know everything about anything. I couldn't have found a better training officer. He recognized what I had done in life up to until that point and respected me for it, treated me like an adult. I couldn't have asked for more. So the months went by, we responded to car accidents, domestic calls, disputes of all kinds, and even a few funny IMO calls, like a lady hitting her husband over the head with a ladle because he said her chili was bad. A story for another time, perhaps. We worked the night shift, less chaotic, for a new guy, I suppose. Part of our duties was checking up on the local government buildings throughout the night. I may have mentioned it was a smaller town, but we had recently had a new courthouse and jail built. The old courthouse was repurposed into a lot of smaller offices: DMV, water board, county clerk, register of property deeds, etc. The attached old jail was the most part simply abandoned. The old jail is connected to the old courthouse by a third-story sky bridge. I guess the idea was, if you were sentenced to jail time, they could just march you right on over to the jail. It was a quiet night on one particular shift, so Officer D suggests we should knock out our nightly checks before things inevitably get not so quiet. It's about midnight, so we cruise over to the old courthouse to get started. We pull right up to the main entrance and get out and approach the doors, like I've done for months already. Just a quick tug to make sure it's secure, but the door swings open. From the cruiser, I hear the straight-laced Officer D simply state, "Fuck." The eloquent response is, "Why fuck? See, the courthouse, old or new, is the sheriff's department domain. When it's found unlocked in the middle of the night, it means getting the sheriff out of bed." So that's what we did. And Sheriff J did not disappoint. This man showed up wearing pajama pants and a gun. He called a few sheriff deputies in the area to assist because we now have to go inside this large 3-story building and search the entire thing to ensure no one had wandered in. Eerie does not even begin to describe it. You know what I mean if you've been inside a mall or a school well beyond after hours. A place normally bustling with activity, being so still and so quiet is disconcerting. But nevertheless, we had a job to do. So myself, Officer D, 2 sheriff deputies, and our pajama-clad sheriff began to sweep the first floor of the building. One thing I did notice is the place had these motion activity hallway lights clicked on one by one as you progress further in. Other than that little observation, it was routine. On the second floor, more offices. Some I knew, some I didn't. No sign of anyone or anything out of place. We've more or less split up at this point to cover more ground a little quicker. It's clear that Sheriff J would like to go back to sleep. I turn a corner and I am met with a long, dark hallway. No offices, doors in sight, just a single door at the end with a sign identifying it as a stairwell. On the right side of the hall were many large windows overlooking the parking lot. I began the trek to the stairwell, glancing out the windows down at our cruisers, then up to the third floor. I'd met with the same hallway as the floor below, windows now on the left as I moved towards the main hall. This is where all the old courtrooms are. Going into the first courtroom, I was met with a once majestic and dignified room reduced to an oversized and disorganized filing cabinet, manila folders stacking high as far as I could see. It was a hoarder's dream and a downright perilous to walk through. I want to check out the old sky bridge, but it was sealed up tight. Oh well, I searched the room as best as I can and find nothing. So I stumble out of that life-size game of bureaucratic Jenga and move on. But it looks like the other guys already finished up at the 2 other courtrooms and were waiting for me. We came up empty-handed, and that was the best-case scenario. So we head back downstairs to the first floor and leave out the main entrance, Sheriff J securing the doors behind us. We congregate by the cruisers, and we're swapping stories about what each of us saw. It's not every day you get to explore an old courthouse at night, after all. The minutes tick by and the building has long since gone dark again, the lights turning off with a lack of motion to activate them, until one did, on the 3rd floor, and then another, in succession, as if someone was walking the hallways, as I just had, not even 15 minutes before. 5 law enforcement officers stood stock to watching. This happened until the entire hall was illuminated once more. Then as the last light activated, a dark figure peered around the edge of the window and then leaned back out of sight. A moment of hesitation for everyone present before Sheriff J charged the door, jamming the key in and wiping the door open. The sheriff and his deputies run to the left staircase while Officer D and I just burst into the right stairwell. We rushed to the 3rd floor and both groups stood at each end of the main hall for a moment. Unspoken communication. We had just ran down the side hall where this person thing just was. It was a lot colder than before. I stayed at the L intersection on my side while a deputy stayed at the L intersection at the opposite end. These are the only 2 staircases in the building, no elevators either. So we have this person cornered. Sheriff J, Officer D, and the other deputy then meticulously started clearing the courtrooms again. I stayed at my intersection, constantly looking between the younger deputy across from me and the hallway that already began to go dark again. It was a tense 20 minutes that I felt like days, but the 3 senior cops come out as the last courtroom looking baffled. Sheriff J, now looking more than awake, signaled our departure. We once again left the building, locking it behind us. There wasn't much talking like that before, but each one of us took one last long look at the hallway before leaving. Number 2. This story is not mine, but my mom's best friend's. It was 1800 in Ireland. There was an English man who would shoot any Irish man who would go on their land. They hated Irish people. He had a daughter who fell in love with the Irish man. The father found out and chained his daughter down and locked her up in her room. She died many years later. The present day, there was a hotel in the land. It was a 5-star hotel, but there was always a complaint from a certain room about hearing chains rattling, a woman screaming, and the radiator not working. The manager thought it was fake and took the night in the room. After the night, the man was so traumatized, the room was boarded up and painted over. If you go to the hotel, you will see the boards of wood over the painted door. Number 3, my parents and some family members decided to stop at the California Nevada Hotel for a couple nights. Everyone went to their rooms. They got rooms next door to one another. My dad said he wanted to watch TV and didn't want to do the tour they were told about. While everyone was gone and he was relaxing, he felt the headboard rattle on his back. He assumed the person next to the door had banged on the wall. He ignored it and flipped through the channels. After a few minutes, it happened again. Only this time he felt like the board had been pushed, which caused him to be pushed from the headboard. He got up, banged on the wall, and told the person to stop. After a few minutes, it happened again. So he put his shoes on, walked over to confront the asshole, as he put it. When he walked outside, he realized there was no one there. They were the corner room. No one can be banging on the wall. He decided to go down to the lobby and wait for my mom to come back. When the tour ended, they saw my dad in the lobby and asked what he was doing. He told them everything, and my aunt goes, "We just found out it's haunted. It was such an amazing tour." My dad demanded they find somewhere else to stay because there's no way he's going to continue to stay there. They ended up staying just the night, but my dad says he didn't sleep. Number 4. One of the most often asked questions I receive about the Bell House is, what was my scariest moment? What was the most horrific event? The answer I usually give is the incidents where my poster caught fire. But in truth, it is hard to answer questions like that because there were so many things that happened that terrified me and Tina. Considering all the different variables that go into a poltergeist haunting, it is hard to qualify which event is number 1. The poster incident reigned supreme for the simple fact it involved fire. It involved locking me inside my house. A case of paranormal, false imprisonment, if you will. Include the electric interface I had to deal with while on the phone with the 911 operator. And if you start to understand why I list it as number 1, the list of the most horrific activity of the Bell House is endless. It varies. But what I can tell you is that many activities I experienced while living in the Bell House have been overlooked and ignored. The 3 burning Bibles, wall writings, or appearance of ghost adventures, and all the revealed things during the episode I have taken center stage. That's unfortunate. Before I share this story, I need to paint a picture of where I was in my relationship with Tina and talk about the darkness I was living in. The relationship in all senses and purposes was over. Tina and I essentially roommates. By roommates, I mean share a roof, not a bed, January 2015. Neither one of us wants to call it quits. Neither one of us wants to be the first to say goodbye. We are not even making eye contact anymore. Those pillow talks we had before we fell asleep, gone. Dinner together, no more. Joint social outings, gone. The kisses we gave each other before leaving for work or arriving home have stopped. As depressing and sad as it was internally for me, it was also a moment where I was furious. I'm angry at Tina. I felt she abandoned me. She abandoned the united front we had. Tina refused to understand that the female jewelry she was finding and sex with other women innuendos were the product of the poltergeist, not me. The spirits in the house knew this. They were successful in separating us romantically, emotionally, spiritually, socially, and physically. The only chance Tina and I had of beating this was to remain united. The idea of me cheating on her created a wedge between us. Metaphorically, the wedge put me on an island by myself. I was now easy pickings. Now the poltergeist can focus on me, and that is precisely what they did. The die is cast. The darkness I was attacked from mid-November to late February 2015. Tina and I on occasion would sleep in different bedrooms. That is one example of how our physical relationship was deteriorating. Tina knew the activity had switched to just happening around me and therefore could go about her daily routine. Ironing board, and candles encased in glass are hurled at me the second I lie down, making sleeping impossible. Understand there is not a moment for Tina and I in the house when I am not being attacked. There is no such thing as hyperbole when describing what a poltergeist attack is like. When a spirit decides to center all activity in and around you, have entered a dangerous phase. You contemplate suicide as a viable option for ridding yourself of the activity. The world you live in becomes small. Every day I walk through the front door of my house after work, the lights flicker off and on, depending on which room I'm in. The chair I sit in when eating in the dining room, inexplicably relocated to my office, sometimes with a note that reads, Die KL. How did my kitchen chair or bar stool get past the ADT motion sensors? I am sitting in my office trying to have some semblance of an ordinary evening, when suddenly objects, small, medium, or large, come flying in. Imagine a chef knife being thrown at you. Imagine if being thrown at you multiple times. How about a beer bottle? How about a cologne bottle? Candles encased in thick glass resting on a bookshelf are harmless. Those same candles hurled at you in a vicinity at incredible speeds. Very dangerous. Oh, you want to watch TV? Good luck with that. The TV in my office is cut off and on. The channels turn by themselves. The internet, the main tool I use to research my predicament, constantly fails. The Wi-Fi is failing. The computer reboots or locks up constantly. It didn't happen. The horrific morning. I had a rough night. Do you know the game Musical Chairs? How about musical bedrooms? The attack on me had become so frequent while I was trying to sleep that I had to get up and switch bedrooms. That used to buy me and Tina a day or two of no activity. Not anymore. Now it just buys me a few hours. When poltergeists are concerned, you take what you can get. This morning I could not sleep. I was looking up at the ceiling when the lamp to my left suddenly flew across the room. That was my signal to get up, finally. Get the fuck out of the house, Keith, is what my brain was telling me. Tina, bless her heart, had not moved a muscle. The noise did not even make her budge. The time it took to shower and shave, pack my suitcase and my business trip, grab my laptop bag, and touch the front door had to have been less than 30 minutes. I was in a hurry. I'm shaking with fear. I felt evil in the air. I felt the darkness. That moment where the predator is about to snag its prey. That was me. I was the prey. I was being haunted. The feeling of being watched was intense. How intense? You are about to find out. This is something about the feeling of being watched, some instinct embedded in human beings, be it an inner sense, spider sense if you will, or better still, a disturbance in the force. You feel it. When you feel it, you know it's true. You know something's trying to tell you something. One thing I view as a gift and a curse is my ability to sense certain things before they happen. I have always had enhanced intuition. My encounter with these entities seemed to have sharpened it. What is weird, if not scary, is that the entities also know it. I'm talking about my high sense of awareness. The entities are exploiting it, or at times become a victim to it. This intuition, instinct, or whatever you call it, deserves attention. Ignore it at your peril. Not me. Not today. I had made multiple trips from my office to my car. I was loading up my belongings in the trunk of my car when something told me to turn around. Turn around, Keith Linder. Something is looking at you. Something's been watching you ever since you got up. Turn around right now. Look up at your office window. Look up right now. Intuition is giving me orders. Turn around. And I did. I turned away from the trunk of my car and looked up. And guess what I saw? My inner voice was correct. The light in my office was off. It should not be. I just walked out of the room 20 seconds ago. There was no reason that the lights should be off. I was coming back to that room to get some more things. Wait a minute. Someone is in my office. The Venetian blind is pierced open, like someone is peeking through. And that is when it happened. Right before my eyes, I looked up at my office window from my driveway. The Venetian blinds of 2 blades pierced open, slowly closed, or something was peeking through the blinds looking dead at me. The time could not have been more perfect. Deductive reason immediately kicks in at an alarming pace. Who's on the other side of that window? Who's in my office? Oh my God, it's someone in the house with Tina. Tina's asleep. Why is the light in my office off? Something just lowered the blind in my office. Could that be the Gray Lady? Was this a minion? It must be the spirit that threw the lamp off the dresser a few minutes ago. Why else would it be watching me? I just leapt into my car and drove off. Drive, Keith. The C-track, your hotel, and sleep. Those questions run through my head as I stand outside my driveway. I cannot leave right now. Tina's inside the house. We might not be the best terms right now, but I must save her. So I run back into the house, passing our bedroom. Using my peripheral vision, I see Tina still asleep in the same position, and reach my office thinking Tina's not in the hallway. To the person reading this is going to sound weird. I would have preferred to have caught Tina coming out of the office versus what I'm about to find, which is nothing. I got my office to confirm that the lights were indeed off. I walked out of the office a minute ago. My heart is pitter-pattering. Not because I ran up the stairs at lightning speed. No, I am frightened. I just saw 2 of my Venetian blinds open and close while standing next to my car. An invisible hand between 2 blinds implied someone or something was peeking through my window office, looking down at me from the 2nd floor. From my inside of my office, the most horrific part of this ordeal, and there are many, was when the 2 Venetian blind blades narrowed and closed, implying whoever was looking at me knew I was about to rush back into the house, or they were done looking at me. I left the house 10 minutes later, heading straight to the airport. The message I got from whoever it was behind those Venetian blinds was, "Don't worry, Keith. We'll be here when you get back." Number 5. About 6 years ago, my company had a sales together at the Viking Hotel in Newport. My room was on the 1st floor in the older part of the hotel. As you walk into the room, on the left side was a smaller shower, and on the right side is the toilet. They both have viewing saloon doors on the openings. In the middle of the night, I awoke to something kicking my bed with a foot. It felt very prank-like. I went back to bed, and in the morning, I googled Viking Hotel Haunted and saw there were stories out on the internet. I then looked over at the door, and both the saloon doors were open and blocking the entrance. I guess the hotel was a big party place for the rich during the Roaring '20s. This is one of many weird other-worldly experiences I've had. Number 6. Years ago, I lived in a high-rise in Okinawa on property where a bloody battle was fought during World War II. I was up late sewing one evening. I was in the dining room and had the TV on in the background. I got up to switch stations on the TV when I looked down the hallway to where the bedrooms were. At the point the hallway, I saw the figure of a man. The man was of grayish tones, and he was only visible from his head down to his mid-thigh, where he faded out. He didn't seem to move, but he was looking towards me. I stood there frozen for a few seconds, never taking my eyes off of him, before I quickly looked to the front door to see if it had been opened. The deadbolt on the door was still locked, so I knew the front door had not been opened. When I looked back down the hallway, he was gone. I quickly flipped the hallway light on and ran to check on my children. They were safely alone in their rooms. During those few brief moments this occurred, I felt cold and my stomach was in knots. My heart was racing as I ran through the rest of the apartment to make sure no one had entered. I finally returned to the dining room where I sat and began to analyze what I had just seen. While I knew without a doubt that I had just seen someone, I also kept telling myself that my eyes had played a trick on me because I was tired from being up so late. Prior to this event, I have been one to think about ghosts and spirits, and I certainly didn't believe in them. In the years since, I have thought of this experience many times, and I have never doubted what I saw. Even having experienced this, I still feel conflicted about whether I believe in ghosts. That is the last story of this video. I hope y'all enjoyed. I love y'all so much, and I will see y'all on Thanksgiving. But until then, remember, it's scary out there.
I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in ink and bleach. Cross